Okay, so on the fall rise here, I've already taken a cut. We did the boot stage cut. It was taken on May 28th and 29th. There was definitely a maturity difference between each variety, and that's why there was a day spread between it. The 29th, those plots probably could have been taken a couple days later, but we had that big rain system coming in, and I would rather get them off than wait and then they be too late, right? So, the biggest difference, I'll start on the boot stage cut. So, producers would do that for top quality cut essentially. So you're aiming for, I mean, our cuts range from 15 to the highest was 20% protein, and your TDN content was 72 to 82%. So for dairy, or if you're aiming for higher quality for your cows, that's when you'd want to take it. Obviously, if you're taking a little earlier, you open up the avenues of more double cropping options, where you can, some guys are taking early just to get a barley on after, and
some beef feedlot people are doing that just so they can grow a grain barley behind it.
and then they're taking at the harvest right after. So it's and seeing good results from it. So they might not be getting top tonnage out of it, because you are sacrificing it a little bit just because you don't have even a little bit of grain fill out of it, but you're still getting good tonnage out of it. So tonnage can range from out of my cuts. Some of the plots were a little bit variable just because of tillage passes, but they range from an average 8 metric ton to 12 metric ton per acre. So that's and I do a 5x10 forage plot on it, so that's just calculated out of that. But so the maturity side of things, we didn't see it last year in the varieties. Like, everything was pretty even emergence on it, but there's a couple other varieties, like one further down, there's this experimental B. That one was three days ahead of the next variety for boot stage cuts. So
And 6 inches taller.
and 6 inches taller. Yeah, and then there's a couple other varieties that were 3 days behind, like Aviator and a couple other experimentals. But
was everything else kind of the same, very equal at
the rest of them were, yeah. So Serafino, Receptor, Serafino was the next one after that, and then Receptor and Performer and Inspirator, all those were pretty even across the board. So it was kind of nice to see a little bit of a difference this year between varieties, because last year we didn't see that. So
he sent the results to Down to Earth Labs, and they're posted on our website.
I also have some printouts at the tent there too. So my next stage cut will be the early milk stage cut. So I will be planning to do that on Monday or Tuesday this next week. In southern Alberta, you're already seeing a lot of fields come off, and that is honestly perfect timing for a lot of those producers. They're probably chasing in oats right after is my guess, but they might be putting in some barley to either try to go for grain, but it could be just for silage too. So oats are the easiest, just they're a little bit quicker, but
they survive the hot summer, July heat. They can grow when they're small in the July heat much better than
barley can't. Right? Well, it has trouble too. So those are your best options. I do test some forward sorghums to go along with it. I have a few producers that swath graze it after their hybrid rise and have had really good success. You get a lot more tonnage out of it, but it's just a lot longer season compared to oats. So it depends on your risk factor on when that first heavy frost hits, but those are kind of your options with hybrid rise.
So we do have some barley yellow dwarf resistant oats, some CDC Bayer. We picked a variety that was earlier than a forage oat because they're double cropping, so you wanted to get to boot or to milk, forage timing on that oat faster. And we picked a barley yellow dwarf virus resistant variety because, as you can see, everyone in southern Alberta is planting all these cereals at all these random times. There is so much risk for insects to move stuff amongst varieties. So know the variety of oat you're planting, because otherwise you will have problems eventually.
Yes, you will. Yeah.
So we have buyer available to pick up now.
Yes, we do.
Got sorghum on hand.
Sorghum on hand.
If you want to double crop to that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
The guys that are taking it at boot stage, are they trying to ensile it, or are they just feeding it out right away, or what are they?
They're ensiling it, yeah. Just, yeah.
I think we'd have a few dairies that would take it for quality, but there's a lot of beef people taking it early so they can grow a barley crop for grain afterwards. So there's more and more people doing that. Other forage questions?
Could you graze it and then go in with like a cocktail mix and for swap sprays?
Yeah, you could. Like, I have some guys that will graze it in the spring and then let it grow out again, and then they might take it for an early green feed, or they'll take it for, silage it as well. So it does, when you graze it, and if you graze it pretty heavy, it does limit your, the tonnage capacity of it, but you can still get some good quality out of it, right? And potential good tonnage too. I would say you probably lose 10% if you graze it, but that's just a guess. Yeah.
If my feeling is if you don't actually kill that rye at the same time you're planting that mix, it's probably going to smother out your mix. It's just so, it's so established already, right? So I think you kind of got to kill at the same time you're planting your mix in.
And the earlier you take it to, the more risk of the allelopathic effect that you have in the soil. So you do want to let that kind of settle down before you go in. But.
Yeah, make a rye crop. Once you're done flowering, the allelopathic effect kind of goes away. So it's less of a risk. So people have planted hemp after a milk stage rye cutting.
Yeah.
So some tillage in between. I would say if you have to prep your field because of some reason, take the extra day it takes to make the field prep proper. So
Yeah.
I do have a whole bunch of other rye tips as well, but maybe we'll save that till after we talk about the varieties. Other questions before we talk about these varieties? Well, Jewel, would you want to come on up and introduce yourself and these varieties and where you see the fit and what you got going on?
Hi everyone, I'm Jewel Scott from KWS Seeds Canada. So we are the breeder of the varieties that are in front of you here. We actually have quite a few in demo. There's a couple experimentals down there that we've been working on for a few years. There is a good chance that we're probably actually going to redirect, and we got some new, more exciting grain and forage varieties coming down the pipeline. I think Greg might have one favorite amongst the two of them. So, but we're always looking for that best variety going forward. But we do have next to the experimentals, we do have our forage variety, which is the aviator. That one typically is our big biomasser. We do see early evidence of Serafino being an early biomasser. Aviator kind of, as soon as it starts to head out, it really starts to differentiate itself in the forage area. And then, I mean, all the rest of our varieties can be taken for grain or forage. I would say that Serafino, Receptor, Attainer, and Inspirator, great straw strength and yield ability. All of them are performing that 4 to 6% above the co-op averages for hybrid rye. They're early, so compared to some of the other winter cereals, you are looking at taking off some of these varieties like 10 to 14 days earlier than winter wheat, 7 to 10 before trit, probably on average. Yeah, in that range a little bit. So, yeah, so right now, Attainer is going to have a slow launch this fall into the prairies, and Inspirator right now is marketed for Eastern Canada, but we're starting to see some promising early biomass, maybe for dairy. So, looking at the potential of some of those varieties for specific end uses.
So potentially soft launch on the Attainer.
On the Attainer, yeah.
Okay, and then we'll have Serafino and Receptor available this year as well in full force.
Yeah.
With
And
Serafino
Aviator.
on hand right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Serafino's been kind of the dominant variety for us for a number of years. It's still available, still going strong. So Any rye questions or KWS variety specific for Jewel or? Yeah,
What's a good dry land variety?
all rye is good for dry land, but I don't know, thoughts on a dry land pick here out of these, you know?
As far as like, I mean, they all perform really well with drought tolerance. The thing is that, I guess it depends on what your end use is. So that'd probably be my first point of selection. Like if you're feeding it or
You're going
selling it
forage?
for just
Like for forage or grain?
Green.
Grain.
for grain feed. Yeah, I mean, we have some great results in all of like these grain varieties as well. Obviously Aviator is not recommended for grain production. It is our forage variety. But they're all excellent. Like they're within 1 to 2% of each other, and they're very dominant in the yield category.
I think
flammability.
ergot risk is something to keep in
Yeah.
mind too, because that's something you want to limit, so.
So all of the grain varieties that we have are really strong for ergot protection. One of our traits that we have is our Pollen Plus technology. That kind of differentiates us a little bit is that the pollen or the heads produce a lot of pollen, and because of their earliness, they aren't susceptible to other diseases except perhaps ergot that could be from other grasses. So the overproduction of pollen prevents ergot from getting and infesting the head. And the extra pollen does allow for the head to pollinate faster, and then the glooms close, so then you don't have a higher risk at that point. So we see a lot of really good result on our ergot protection from our Pollen Plus technology, which is in every product that we have.
Which one is the best? Which
Uh,
one has the least amount of it?
The least amount of ergot, so right now Inspirator is being marketed for the east, so we don't really have a whole bunch of evidence on it, and Attainder is getting very early. Receptor and Serafino are excellent, both of them for ergot protection. So I can't really say that I would say one or the other, but yeah.
One thing that they look kind of similar, but I think Serafino has a better standability versus Receptor, or are they neck and neck?
I think Receptor typically on dryland conditions can be a bit shorter.
Okay.
It's not, I wouldn't say is as good of a dual purpose like forage variety as Serafino can be. But it's known probably a little bit stronger in the straw strength than Serafino. But as far as performance goes, we don't really see a lot of, because of them being a bit shorter in stance in dry land, we don't see them lying down, and if they do, they don't lay down for long. So, yeah.
If you're laying down a crop like this on dry land, you're probably smiling anyways, so.
Yeah.
You'll be doing good.
What are you guys targeting plants per square foot for your hybrids?
Oh yeah, I didn't mention that. Plants per square foot on hybrids. So 1 unit per acre is the target plant stand. When hybrids first came out, it's like 8 or 10 years ago, 0.8 of a unit per acre. And what's a unit? A unit is 1 million live seeds. So we do based on germ size and germ and seed size to figure out how many seeds are in a million, or how many pounds it takes to make 1 million live seeds. So 1 unit per acre is kind of your suggested use rate. We do have the odd customer on dry land where they're trying to cut costs, or they're planting early enough that it has time to tiller. They might go to the 0.8 of a unit, but then there's no room for error if there is a seeding depth or erosion thing happening, so.
Works out to 23 plants per square foot.
Ah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
You can see on the chart too that there's some variability in the seeding rate due to their seed sizes. So, but that target of 1 million, 1 unit per acre.
That keeps it even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you bought 2 different seed lots of Serafino and you bought 1 unit an acre, it might be 2 different seeding rates because of the seed size and germ. So it does keep the cost per acre even across seed lots, but it does mean different volumes for shipments, or different amount of acres can fit on a truck or a tote. So we sell it in tote bags, treated, bare, bulk. That's one thing, we can price freight. So if you don't want to dirty up trucks with treatment in the fall, we do have a trucking company that works with us, and they'll put treated seed on their truck, and they don't seem to charge any extra for that. And they'll get treated seed to you without you dirtying up your truck, so, in the fall. What's that? Yeah, Roxel Pro Shield. We do add a couple more additives. So when treating rye, that was in my notes, it dusts off easily. So so it is very, like, it's worse than barley. Rye wants to flake off every time you move it. So we have to be very careful when we treat it that we add additional water. We have another additive that we add to it. So we're adding more things to make it so it doesn't dust off. Rodney's our treater pro. He's got the formula dialed in. But that is key, because you don't want dusting off of something you're paying to put on there. And so we've worked quite a bit to get that formula. He's worked quite a bit to get that formula dialed in with Matthew, and Paul. So, but yeah, again, some people don't treat. For me, if you're spending that much per acre, I don't want to cheap out on treatment, because it's not a cheap product; it's a premium product. So, and the net returns, with the goal of the net return being there to get you more net returns in the end. So that's the goal behind all these hybrid products.
I think some of the right seeding practices that we do have recommended too, when you purchase the product, you're given some information too about some recommendations. We talked about kind of chasing some moisture and things like that. It's not something we typically recommend with the rye, because it does do a lot of root establishment quickly. But chasing the moisture sometimes can be a little bit more detrimental to its establishment early. So we kind of want it up and out of the ground. This year we had a lot of guys trying to dust it in. They had an open window for weather, maybe not a lot of precipitation in the forecast, but as soon as they had some seed swell, they were confident that they would have germ in the spring. We were just prepared that perhaps the rye wouldn't be as competitive as it would be if it had been established a little bit sooner. We recommend at least, 4-leaf before going into winter. That would be ideal. A little bit bigger is even better. But I think what we're looking at is guys looking at the forecast going into the fall and seeing what kind of window they have behind. So we have a lot of people pushing seeding dates a little bit later than the ideal, and having still good success with it. So yeah.
It can be done. For what I had written down was generally in southern prairies, August 25th to September 20th is kind of when you want to be done. People do push past that though, and it can work. This year we had some fields like that ourselves actually that looked amazing that were planted closer to the end of September. And if you're in the central or northern prairies, August 20th to September 15th is kind of our rye recommendation. So you don't want to go too early. It can get too big and kind of run out of steam actually. So
we run into that actually in BC quite a bit, because they don't really have a true frost until quite late in the season. And so what they really don't want is all that biomass for the crop to have to come back up through. Keeps the ground cold, keeps the plant colder for longer, shades it out essentially. So we just want it to be standing well come the spring, because they're taking it quite quickly. So especially for dairy. Pardon me?
How big is too big?
I had someone put in under irrigation August 20th the aviator, which does biomass quite large, and it did go into the fall quite large. It all came through, but it was just a little up and down here for a little bit in the spring, because some areas that maybe just weren't as heavy or weren't laid down as bad because of the snow and things like that. It took a little bit for it to come through. It rallies, but it's nice to see it a little bit more even come the spring, especially when you're dealing with grain varieties too. But yeah.
all right. Maybe let's move forward to the next stop here, and we'll pull the truck up a little bit. Thanks, Jewel. So talk to Jewel around any rye questions on KWS products.